Okay, officially, welcome everyone to the winter CalTug meeting. We do these quarterly, and this is, I think, our third virtual meeting. So a little bit different, hopefully in the not too distant future. In fact, we even have a session that kind of alludes to the fact that maybe we will be meeting in person at that Secretary of State building and actually be able to meet and greet everybody in person. And it's a real neat time to be able to have folks network in person. So hopefully we're coming close to that. Today, we have a number of sessions. We've got a couple Tableau sessions, and then we have a couple sessions that are customer related. So real quick, we've got Jared. I don't think Jared Scott is our SE that's assigned here to, or he covers the state of California clients. So most everyone on the call probably knows Jared, and if not, you'll definitely get an opportunity to meet him. And one of the things that we have not done over the last 2 or 3 sessions, I think, is, we come up with releases basically quarterly, just like our CalTug meetings. We have quarterly releases of the product. And there's a lot of really, really cool things that have come along the way here over the last several releases. So Jared is kind of going to do a greatest hits and show you some of that stuff and kind of cover that to make sure you're aware of what's come out in Tableau since I guess COVID hit, Jared, right? Kind of that's during that time. I think that's what you're going to be covering. So so that's great. We'll have that first to kick us off. The next one we have is with Kelly Flanders. And for those that don't know Kelly, Kelly is your renewals reps, doing a great job of supporting everybody here in the state. But it's not just renewals she handles. She really handles all of the issues that come along with your portal. Portal, of course, is very important to be managing all of your entitlements and manage the user access, or not user access, users, right? The licensing and such. So we get so many questions. So we thought we'd ask Kelly if she could maybe share some of those, typical questions she has, and just make sure you're aware of what Portal does and some of the tips and tricks. So we're going to have her spend some time. And by the way, we're going to keep that really interactive. So definitely, if there's questions that you may have, please, feel free to ask those to Kelly. May have to take those back and maybe do follow-ups, but at least, we'd like to keep this session interactive. And then we've got our first customer presentation, Rich Williams and Robert Edwards. I've been working with these guys for a long time, and they're just doing fabulous stuff there at CalTrans with Tableau. I'm just so impressed. Every time I run into a new department or new users, it's just amazing some of the stuff that they're doing with Tableau. And I really think they're kind of one of those organizations that move from just showing dashboards. I know that's what Robert's going to spend some time showing today, but they're actually using it to ask questions of their data a lot. And we're seeing a lot more of that. So they're kind of that journey. They really keep progressing in what they're doing there at CalTrans. So that's going to be a session. And I think, Robert, you want to kind of keep that somewhat interactive. If there's questions, we're going to try to answer those, but we'll try to control those. I'll have Gina. Gina, I think we want to use the question and answer window as opposed to the chat window for questions. You want to elaborate on that?
Yes, so if you have questions throughout the presentations, we would ask that you submit them in the question and answer portal. So right next to chat, there should also be an option for Q&A. It has the 2 kind of chat, looks like talking boxes, I guess. So if you submit those there, I will be monitoring that window throughout the entire presentations. Throughout all of the presentations, and I will ask your questions and make sure that we get those answered for you. So just feel free to, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in there and we'll make sure we get those answered.
Perfect. Thanks, Gina. And then we will conclude. The last session we had Steve, I think it was Steve that actually did the presentation on the COVID dashboards, Governor Newsom's dashboards that were presenting kind of this, how things were progressing here in the state, or not progressing, I guess. But obviously the story's changed a bit, and everyone knows that the vaccine management's really what's in the news now. So the dashboards have changed as well. So I don't know how ready they are to actually release those, but I know Steve's going to give us an update. And actually, Kenny, you want to speak to a little bit about what he's going to share? Because I know that, we're kind of in flux here as far as what Governor Newsom is going to be sharing with the public soon.
Sure. So I think one of the challenges, and it's probably a challenge across departments and agencies, is actually gathering the data. how accurate the data is and timely data. So I think he's going to touch more on the data aspect and talk about some of the things that they're trying to do with OES and CDPH and over at CDT. So less on physically creating a vaccine dashboard and more just like what is the back end stuff that they're trying to do. So
Great. Yeah. And it was fascinating. That was kind of some of the stuff he was touching on a little bit in his last presentation. This will be This will be great to hear this one as well. So, okay. So that's what we're going to cover today. Kind of left it a little loose, so we don't have firm times. I think most people know exactly, or know generally how much time they're going to spend, but I didn't want to lock people into that. And then we'll have any closing remarks or any questions and answers that people have. I might have should have switched these two slides. I think, hold on. I have another slide here that kind of has the Tableau team. I think you've heard from some of those folks. So I'm Mike Ramus. I cover half the state of California. Kenny, who just spoke, covers the other half. Jared will be doing the presentation. He's our sales consultant. Please, feel free if you want to take a screen print of this or a picture of this. Feel free to reach out to any and all of us. We're here to support you. Gina just spoke. She's the one that coordinates the CalTug meeting and also handles all of the kind of the sales things. Like if you're purchasing a creator license, for instance, things like that, Gina will manage all of that. I think most of you probably know that name. Dell is our customer success manager. That is a lot of you folks have engaged with him to really help with your Tableau journey and help rolling out, doing everything from user adoption to increasing the technical competency, things like that. So Dell's been very instrumental in helping our customers with that. And then of course, Kelly, and she'll be doing her presentation. She's your renewals manager and we'll be doing the portals piece. So just want to make sure. So yeah, please take a picture of that. This is your team. We're all here to support you and feel free to reach out to any and all. And that's what I've got. I think, Gina, are we ready to jump into Jared's session? Anything else you want to say before we do that, or are we good to go?
No, I think we're good to go. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Kenny.
Perfect. Okay. Jared, it's all yours.
All right. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. Like Mike just said a few minutes ago, my name is Jared Scott. I'm a solutions engineer here in California. And like he also said, I've met a lot of you out there, but there's also quite a lot of customers I haven't had the chance to actually interact with yet. Just a tiny bit about my background. I joined Tableau a little over a year ago. And before that, I was the Tableau server administrator for UC Davis Health for about 3.5 years. So in that time, what I saw interacting with a lot of customers is that, we had people that would use the most recent version of Tableau all the time, but it also had some users that would have versions that sometimes were multiple years old. And there's no mandate that you have to update, but if you have an active license, which most of you do, it's actually free to get all those new, latest and greatest things that we offer in our software. So that's why we like to highlight the new stuff that's out there, all the new features that we put out in each major release. So with that, I'm going to start sharing my screen. I'm going to highlight some of those different things we're offering now. Let me try to share really quick. Screen 3. And share. And Mike or Kenny, Mike, would you just confirm you can see my screen?
yes, we can.
Yep.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. All right. So one quick thing I want to highlight, if you've attended CalTug in the past, you know that we do cover these on a regular basis. You might ask yourself, why are you covering stuff you've already talked about before? Very quickly, I want to highlight that we do have a lot of people that do not attend every CalTug. And we have some people that are in that group I just mentioned where they might have had Tableau Desktop on their computer for a couple of years now, and they've never really upgraded to the newer versions. And so we like to hit some of those major new features from the older releases and then talk about the new ones in a little bit more detail. That way, everybody who hasn't been updated on those recently can get all those details and understand the value. So what I'm going to do in this session, about 30 minutes or so, we're just going to talk about the new features and the highlights on the website that we have out there for everybody. But before we start that, I wanted to highlight that in our training offerings, we have an option called e-learning. And if you haven't heard of e-learning, it's one of the many options we have where, you can go in-person training if you want. You can do a remote option where you can just see an instructor on a screen and they go over content and help everyone in the class go through it. And then you have the e-learning option, which you can see on the screen right now. That e-learning option is a really good option because it's kind of like YouTube. You can have all the different classes that we offer available to you in video format, and it's available to you for a full year. And a lot of people have heard about this, and they know about the different courses like Desktop 101, 102. There are different learning paths we have here. But one thing that I've never highlighted to this group is that there's also a section, if you scroll all the way to the bottom here, called the New Feature Spotlight. So part of this service is that if you wanted to know about all these different releases when they come out and see more details about it, all you'd have to do is go to the New Feature Spotlight. And when that loads up, you could actually see the information about the release. Let me see if this loads up really quickly. And there's actually a video associated with it. There's details about each of the different releases. So you learn about the elements of the release that are important. You see a video showing you how some of the differences can be applied to your work. And then there's also a section where you have a quiz to ask you about those different features and functionality. The cool thing is this would keep you up to speed. It challenges you a little bit, so you actually are having quizzes and understand the content. And that too, this is actually something that the Tableau internal folks use. So as an actual employee of Tableau, I go through this similar process internally to make sure that I understand what's going on with the new feature releases. So just wanted to highlight that this is part of that offering, so you also could be up to speed and be as knowledgeable as the Tableau employees are about the new features. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to jump back to 2020.2, a release from last year, and just highlight some of those elements that we have highlighted these before if you came to previous CalTugs. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these older versions. I'm going to quickly highlight some of the the setup of this page and then the highlights from that particular version, and then spend more time on the versions that are more current, like 2020.4. So Tableau, every time we have a new release, we create the new features website and we just update it with the new version that's there. You can always go out and Google Tableau new features or Tableau what's new, and you can find the historical versions of these websites, and that's what we're looking at right now. So as I scroll down, we always like to highlight the big release, the big parts of the release at the very top. So if you've been to CalTug before, if you've actually interacted with us outside of CalTug, we've talked about relationships a lot. This is a huge improvement to our product because previously you could join different data sources, different tables, different views and files, but the actual connection, sometimes the level of detail for the data wasn't just right, wasn't the way you want it to be. So with relationships, what we effectively offered is the ability to make a very sophisticated data model where you can have multiple different joins, sometimes to the same table, but in a different context. So that way, whenever you start building your visualization, you wouldn't have to actually make sure you change those joins or make lots of level of detail calculations. You'd be able to just drag the elements out onto the screen, and Tableau Desktop would take care of the rest for you. Then we also added metrics in 2020.2, which, if you don't know what metrics are, very quickly, basically, if you have something that's on the server, let's say that you have a dashboard with multiple different visualizations on it. If there was a particular chart in that dashboard and you thought, you know what, I really like this line chart, I feel like it's important to my business and it should be a KPI, very quickly in Tableau Server, you could select that particular dashboard or that particular sheet in the dashboard and make that into a KPI using the metrics functionality. Very quick and easy. We just talked about set controls. Sets are powerful because you can make the custom sets of a collection of data points that you want to highlight to somebody. And we increased the set control options in this version, allowing people to dynamically add things back and forth. So it's a very quick piece of functionality to highlight. It was something that was requested quite a lot. Instead of having to manually add things back and forth, you can add things on the fly, add different elements to that list. And as we go all the way down to the bottom of the page, I want to highlight that at the very top, like we just talked about, there are highlights of some of the major features. But down at the bottom, there's always a section for all features here. And this shows you everything that we put in there, because sometimes the elements that we add are not as momentous. It's a smaller detail that we've added here, like a detail of Oracle spatial support. So this is a particular technology, a particular file type that we've added. So it doesn't affect all of our customers. So we don't hit it with such a large spotlight. We kind of let that sit down here at the bottom for particularly those people that do use Oracle spatial files. So if you ever want to see the full list of what's offered in each release, go to the very bottom of the page. You can see all the different options under all features. So now I'm going to move on to one of the newer versions. So instead of 2020.2, we're going to go to 2020.3. So a little bit newer here. Let's see if I can move this screen really quick. There we go. I'll move that little toolbar out of the way. So 2020.3. So some big news here, and this was one that was very much requested for a very long time. Tableau Prep Builder. So many of you have heard of Tableau Prep Builder. If you haven't, just a quick explanation. Tableau started with Tableau Desktop to visualize your data. And then people, as they built content, wanted to share it. So we created Tableau Server so that you could publish content in a easily accessible place in a format, just like any other web content that's out there. And then a few years after that, we realized that customers now wanted some assistance with actually preparing their data for visualization. So we created Tableau Prep Builder. And this allows people to, take all their data, make a copy of it, and clean it up, get it ready for the visualization process, and then reuse the output later on. And when I say output, what I mean is that when we first created Tableau Prep Builder, you could create a local file, or you could publish that file to Tableau Server and you could use it there effectively. So one of the main things that main requests that we got for product improvement was to allow users to connect to a database like Oracle or Microsoft SQL Server, work with data, and then be able to take that final product, that output, and push it back into that database itself. That way people didn't have to start from scratch on a regular basis, or that they didn't have this output, this file at the end of a prep flow process that was isolated. It was on an island where you had to find some other process to get it back into the database. So in version 2020.3, it was a huge improvement. We started offering that ability to take the content. Once you get to the very end of the process, you can take all that and put it right back into your server or your database, that is. So really quickly, I just pulled up Tableau Prep Builder. I'm going to expand this really quick just so you see. So this is a very simple flow that we created here at Tableau. We put it out there as an example so that people can just see how a flow might work, beginning with some data sources on the left, and then you have cleaning steps and a lot of other things you can do. And then that final output step down here, if you wanted to, you could add an output step somewhere else, just as an explanation. You can go to any of these nodes and say, I would like to now do any of these steps, but in particular, I want to highlight that this is an output. This is where that functionality was added. You can see I've got a new node here at the top. And then down in the left-hand section here, we've got save output to, and here's the options and where they changed. To a file was what we had in the beginning. And then we had published data source that was offered as well. And now this database table, this is what we talked about just now. And this is what was new in 2020.3. So right away, as I say, I want to push this output into a database table. Tableau Prep Builder says automatically, that's fantastic. Where do you want to put it? You start adding in the details about where you're at, what type of technology you have. Let's just, as an example, Microsoft SQL Server. It automatically asks for the details of where your connection string is at. Once you supply those, then it'll just say, do you want to make a brand new table, or do you want to append all the rows that you created here? And you can push all that data right back into your database instead of having an independent file. So that's very valuable because you can still have your Tableau data source, like a hyper file and extract if you want, and you can share that on Tableau Server, or you can take the output, push it back into the database, and that allows other Tableau desktop users, Tableau Server users to reach back into that new data that you pushed into the database, or you can use that extract version and have people connect to it on Tableau Server as well. There's a lot of details in there about what you can do, but the exciting point is that what we're doing is becoming more and more data agnostic. We're allowing you to connect to your data wherever it makes sense and improve your business processes. So I'm going to move this off the screen now. We're going to jump back into what we were doing here. So we talked about writing back to the database in Tableau Prep. One thing I want to hit really quickly that is actually a big deal is grant license on sign-in. So like I mentioned in the beginning, I used to be a Tableau Server admin. So some of these admin things are kind of close to my heart because I did it for years as a full-time job. There are many different organizations out there that have lots of seats that they've bought for their Tableau Server environment. We have two different setups. So if this doesn't sound familiar, that's okay, no big deal. But one thing that sometimes slows people down getting access is they have to wait for someone to assign them a license. And an admin usually has to go in and say, I'm going to let that person be either a viewer or an explorer or a creator. But now Tableau Server offers that ability where the admin can set it up where a whole group of people, if someone is added into, let's say, a particular Active Directory group, when they try to log into Tableau Server, they will automatically be granted a license. So that way it takes one of those barriers out of the way and it speeds up innovation, because then as new users come on board, or if you have a new group that you're making content for, you can know that they can get to that content faster and not have to wait for someone else to intervene to get them that access. So this one is a little bit more specific. If you have any questions, please contact me afterwards. I would be glad to go into detail about any of the things we're talking about today. The SAP HANA connector, clearly not everyone uses SAP, but for those folks who do use it, you can just understand that we're improving our relationship with them. This particular improvement offers a lot of extra support from the SAP side, but know that in addition to the SAP data sources, we have a lot of other data sources that we're improving all the time. Well, Tableau was acquired by Salesforce a little over a year ago, and so we're improving those connectors as well to make sure that people can access all their Salesforce data in a faster way all the time. So scrolling down to the bottom of this page, we're just going to highlight really quick. Once again, many different features here in the bottom. And like I talked about a moment ago, we just introduced relationships that data modeling capability in the previous version 2020.2, and automatically we're adding more and more capabilities. So that's the good news with Tableau, is that we are always actively updating all of the content we have and the ability to make new content. So I won't hit all these down here at the bottom. Just want to highlight that everybody should go through and take a look, because some of these apply to some customers and not others. So please go take a look on a regular basis. One thing I do want to highlight is the in operator. It sounds like it's something simple, but I want to highlight that for a long time, our customers have requested things like this, where you add specific operators to be able to make certain joins, make certain output, make new calculated fields. And we're adding even those elements as well. The logical considerations inside when you're actually writing out these calculations, we're adding more and more capabilities all the time. One thing that I actually like, once again, because I used to be an admin, subscriptions that run based on the extract refresh. So on a regular basis, we have people that would go out and make a subscription to a certain dashboard or report because they thought, I want to see this on a regular basis, and the data source I know is supposed to be updated around 7 a.m. And so they would get that subscription sometime thereafter, but in some instances it was a guess, because sometimes extracts don't refresh on time, or they're delayed for some reason here or there. And so people would sometimes get a subscription and they would access the report and they would say, hey, this data is stale. So, can't we just set it so that it only runs the subscription once the data is refreshed? And this is what Tableau has added here. So a lot of small things we do add a lot of efficiency on the back end, but it's not a lot of fanfare around it. But this is one of those that is very impactful for the users. Let me close that down. And also want to highlight really quick, I'm not going to talk about these particular details, but explain data and ask data. There are a lot of times people just look right past those because they kind of get used to doing their regular routine. Always highlight to your customers the ability to go in and look at ask data for exploring data sources without having to have a Tableau desktop engineer or developer there. And then also explain data. Help your customers understand that if they don't quite understand something they're seeing in the data, they can explore it right there using explain data in the moment, just to get some more insights that they might not have seen right off the bat. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out this particular section. I'm going to move on to the newest version, version 2020.4. Let this refresh. Here we go. All right. So once again, same format. So you guys are used to this at this point with the new version. But of course, since we're here in the most recent version, I'm going to go ahead and just take some time and talk about these things a little bit more detail. So on Tableau's product roadmap, for a long time, we've talked about having parity between Tableau Desktop and the Tableau server environment. And it's always been talking about Tableau Desktop in the server, web editing in the server. But in version 2020.4, we got a welcome surprise for everyone that now we're offering Tableau Prep Builder in the browser. So before this, you had to open up Tableau Prep Builder like you saw just a moment ago. Here's a quick reminder. I just pulled Tableau Prep Builder back up on the screen. So this is a separate piece of software on its own. You could, load up one of the pre-existing flows there and look at them, or, edit it, play with it, that kind of thing. But once you got done, you had to publish the content into the Tableau server environment. You had to do this work here. You couldn't do it on the server. But now with version 2020.4, you can start creating that content right in the browser window. And I'm going to actually show you that now. So you see at the top of the screen, I'm going to jump over to a different tab in Chrome. I'm in the demo.tableau environment. So this is an internal environment that Tableau maintains so that we can just do demonstrations like this for all of our customers. Most of the time when people sign into Tableau server, they actually land on the home screen. So I'm going to jump there now. You can see the banner at the top. And I'm doing this to show you that there's multiple ways to get to this particular piece of functionality. Number one, you don't have to do anything special to get this functionality into your Tableau server environment. You just have to talk to your Tableau server administrator and make sure that you have the most current version, which is 2020.4. So sometimes, admins don't want to update immediately, and that's okay. Just make sure that you remind them that you're looking forward to this functionality, and that can, help them move along the process a little bit faster, possibly. So if you log into Tableau server and you land here on the home page, usually there's a banner at the top, and that on that banner, you see there's a button for create. If you click that button, before you would see the option for project or workbook. And really quick caveat, the options you see here are based on your server or site role. So if you don't see these when you log into your Tableau server environment, that's okay. If you want these capabilities, you need to talk to your server admin and make sure you let them know that you would like to elevate your status from whatever it is to a creator. That way you can get these capabilities. So if I click that create button, I have the option to create a new project, create a new workbook. This is where you would get those functionality pieces like you see in Tableau Desktop. And then now in this new version, you see the option for flow here at the bottom. I want to highlight that. So this create button is here on the home page. If you go to the explore page, click here, you have the same thing at the top. So with Tableau, we like to make our products with multiple paths to get to the desired outcome. And this is another example of that. So you don't have to worry about if you're on the home page or the explore page, you can still get to that capability to make new content in the browser. So I'm going to go ahead and click on flow and show you what this looks like. So when I clicked on that flow option, you can see that I was on this tab at the top of the screen, and now a new tab has opened up. So right away, Tableau is saying, okay, we've got a new flow. You can rename it if you want. And it's saying this is a draft, so we haven't saved anything yet. And also, we don't have any content yet. So over on the left-hand side, I'm not going to go over the full detail of everything you're seeing in this Canvas space, because that's kind of what we do in our Tableau Prep Builder workshop. And if you think you're interested in Tableau Prep Builder or the workshop itself, just contact Mike or Kenny or myself, and we'll be glad to actually set up one of those sessions for you. But on the left-hand side of the screen, really quickly, what you see here is a blue bar, and then there's a caret at the very top left-hand corner. I'm going to zoom in so you can see that. Right underneath that file option, I'm going to click on this caret. When I do that, now you can see my connections option. Right now, I don't have any, so I'm going to click that plus symbol with a circle around it. And then I'm going to go ahead and zoom back out. Now you see all those options that we have to the different file types. Tableau server, of course, because we're proud of our own product. And then flat files like Excel or PDF or CSV files, that kind of thing, are in the to a file section. And then we have a very large to a server section that covers many different technologies that you might want to look at or that you might have in-house. So I'm going to keep this simple. I'm going to say Microsoft Excel. You see the file selector pop open. I'm going to click on desktop here, FAA, Wildlife Strike. If anybody's attended one of our Desktop 101 workshops, you recognize this file because we talk about it a lot. This is a file that talks about bird strikes across the United States of America, and it's a data set that comes from the FAA. All right, so what you see now is if I pull up this, the window at the bottom from Tableau Prep Builder, very similar look and feel. So this is Tableau Prep Builder you see in the window. I'm going to downsize that. Very similar look and feel. So you automatically start with your connection to that file you just selected. And then I can add new steps. You see on the right-hand side here, Tableau Prep Builder in the browser saying, why don't we go ahead and clean this data up a little bit? If you click that, you have a new node in your prep flow. It reads the data and it gives you all the elements and lets you start cleaning. Once again, the big highlight here is that we're still in the browser. All these pieces of functionality are right here in the browser, just like it is in Tableau Prep Builder. And the good news is, with Tableau Desktop, there was a huge amount of capabilities and functionality to be built out over years before you could do things in the browser. But with Prep, since it's a newer product, there's almost 100% feature parity right here in the browser right away. So you don't have to wait for that. So that's just a quick understanding of what you can do in the browser, and the fact that you can do all these things like you can do in Tableau Prep Builder. It's pretty awesome. So now I'm going to jump back over really quick to this 2020.4 feature. So we covered the Tableau Prep Builder at the top, just to highlight the big new release. And once again, that's available right now as long as you just update the software. The next one down that's been requested for a long time as well is multiple mark layers on maps. So previously, you were limited to the number of layers you could actually put on a map. But now we've actually updated the product to allow you to add as many layers as you want. There's always a caveat though. Let me show you really quick. So I'm going to just grab Tableau Desktop. If I can grab this on the other screen and get that over there. Clear that out. I'm going to drag this over. So Tableau Desktop, which many of you are familiar with. I've connected to the sample Superstore data set, so nice and simple, nothing crazy, what most of you have already seen before, especially if you've done training. If I wanted to, create a quick map, I could say, let's say country region, drop that out here. You see the map of the United States, there's one single mark in the middle. Previously, you could add different elements to the map. Just want to highlight a slight difference so you can see that actually in action. So let's say city here, I'm going to hold down the control key on my keyboard. I'm going to grab a couple of other elements really quick. So I'm going to grab return count and then let's say segment. So I'm going to grab those three things are all highlighted at the same time, the city, segment, and returns. And when I drag this out now onto the map, you see that there's this little indicator at the top says add a marks layer. And when I drop that down, what you see automatically now are all the marks across the map. And on the left-hand side of the marks card, I just want to highlight really quick that you have all the elements you're used to seeing on the marks card. But there's one little element too that's slightly different. Now, with the different elements you're adding to the map, I'm going to zoom in really quick so you can see this. You can see is that as I'm hovering over some of these different geographic elements, you see a little eyeball indicator here. And if I click on that eyeball indicator, what that does is it just makes the element disappear. So if you want to see what I'm talking about, look to the center here where you see the dot for the United States. And I'm going to zoom back out. I'm going to make that element a little bit bigger just to make it clear. You see now the dot in the middle for the United States. If I wanted to, I can toggle that on and off. And the important part is that you can toggle all these different layers on and off. And this becomes important as you add more layers. It's a common thing or a common occurrence to see sometimes some marks on the map will get covered up by other marks when you have lots of layers there. So we added this feature, this functionality, just so you can quickly toggle back and forth to see what might be getting covered up as you add more and more layers in there. And just so you can see, where they're at, and then also how it will be presented to the customer. So this is a big addition because for a long time, people that use Tableau for maps and geospatial, they've been asking for this for quite a while. Let me go ahead and get that off the screen. And now I'm going to talk about a few other details as well. So continuing down the page here, resource monitoring for Tableau. Some of our customers have the resource monitoring tool. And just to quickly highlight what that is, it's more aimed at the Tableau admins out there for your Tableau server environment. This allows you to monitor all of your Tableau servers that are running, whether it be the production or non-production environments, or if it's a larger implementation and you have multiple production instances, then your admin can see all those details in one place. I just wanted to highlight that if you are on a Linux environment rather than Windows, we now offer that support for a resource monitoring tool in Linux environment. So it doesn't apply to a lot of people, so I'm just going to move on from that fairly quickly. But once again, if you have any questions, you can always contact us and we can give you more details. So sliding on down here, I'm going to go to the All Features section at the very bottom just to talk about a few of these other elements that are here, because clearly, the ones at the top are the big deals, but there's also always a couple others we want to talk about. Predictive modeling. For a long time, Tableau has, actually, let me click this so you can see it. For a long time, Tableau has had, linear regression models that are built into the product and you can just drag and drop. In the previous version, 2020.3, we started adding the capability of altering your model. Now, I'm not a modeling expert, so I can't talk about the intricate details of how to build a model and how to make sure it's accurate. But the good news is for those folks in the audience that do have those capabilities, Tableau is now allowing you to sink your fingers into this particular model and make it exactly fit whatever you want. You can change certain parameters, make it into different types. As you can see here, we have regularized linear regression and Gaussian process regression now, in addition to the default model of linear regression we had before. So once again, this is kind of aimed at a smaller segment of our customers. But the good news is that if you ever do have this type of need, or you start to get into more deep data analysis, these capabilities are now there, and we're also adding more and more intricate details all the time. I want to highlight too, I talked about the data Tableau Prep Builder in the browser and how we added that, and there's almost parity. We're always adding more and more features to the actual desktop feature functionality in the browser as well. So this is our long-term goal. Eventually, sometime in the future, we will have all the options of Tableau Desktop in the browser, but it takes a long time to build those into the browser itself because, like I mentioned before, Tableau Desktop is our oldest product. We've been building it for years and years, and so it takes longer to get all those pieces into that web browser environment. I'm going to close this one down. So, sorry, just to highlight, what we do every release, we have little tidbits that we add, and so this is just a list of some of the things that we've added in this most recent feature. You'll see this on an ongoing basis. You're always going to see little enhancements to web authoring until we finally get to that point where we start to release functionality in both, like brand new functionality in desktop and in the browser at the same time. So that's going to be ongoing. I also highlighted how we are, constantly updating the Salesforce connector. That way we can get access to more of your data and also get it faster. And then a couple other details below. There's quite a lot of stuff that's here, so I'm not going to go over all of it. Just want to highlight that you have lots of different functionality for different pieces. Like there's specific stuff for Salesforce I mentioned, for Azure, and for Snowflake. So we're always adding more and more capabilities and functionality, especially too for Tableau Mobile. Admittedly, that's not the most popular product we have in our whole platform, but you can rest assured that all of the products are being upgraded on a regular basis. And you can see that here in the new features site we have for all the releases. So with that, I'm going to stop bouncing back and forth between all the different cool features that we're adding. And let's pause, take a moment, and then open up for questions. So I'll quickly look in the chat window to see if there's anything particular that popped up. And then, of course, if anybody, I guess the question, Mike and Kenny, are we allowing everybody to unmute themselves and ask questions directly, or are we just doing the chat?
Well, let's start out by reading a couple. So Charles Lee asked a question: where can we find more literature on the predictive modeling function improvements?
Okay, so with a lot of these different elements we have here, there are blog posts that we put out to give a lot more detail. So let me make a note really quick and I'll send it out to the team. I just have to go find the deep dive on that.
Perfect.
So you want the deep dive information on predictive modeling.
Okay, and I'll follow up with you on that. The other one, Melissa,
if you can
actually
find
had
it, if you could, sorry, Jared, if you can add it to the chat, that's probably best.
Yeah. Perfect.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'll start looking for that here in just a minute. And what were you saying, Mike?
And then I was going to say, Melissa actually had a comment that she posted, which is interesting. As an FYI, I said, I just discovered that there is, Melissa Thompson with CALTRANS, I should have mentioned. I just discovered that there is some Tableau training on LinkedIn Learning. I was not aware of that. So that's something that you may want to look at.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, there's, so my previous experience, I like to, cite that a lot. When I was at UC Davis Health, and then years before that, I worked at the University of Virginia Medical Center. They had multiple different resources that would provide Tableau training outside of Tableau's resources. So like you talked about, LinkedIn Learning, I think it was lynda.com before they actually acquired it. I did a lot of training there for Tableau. I also, I like to highlight to our customers as well, we have our own YouTube channel. So if you want to get a lot of free content, I mean, hours and hours of free content, not just from blog posts and other information we have internally for training, but also a lot of different videos from Tableau conferences in years past, where we talk about the new releases, when they are announced there. And we also have sessions where you can watch someone walking through sometimes some very intricate detail-oriented settings, whether it be desktop, prep builder, or Tableau server. So yeah, a huge number of resources are available out there.
And of course, Tableau does offer e-learning, and in this COVID world of ours, they've become very popular. For those folks that aren't familiar with the e-learning, it's 4 courses. It's Desktop 1, Desktop 2, Desktop 3, and also the Prep Builder Prep Builder course. Mm-hmm. It's the same curriculum that if you were to go to our virtual classes or back when we used to do on-site classes. It's just a little different that it is, you go at your own pace. The cost is $120 per user per year. So you can revisit those courses as much as you want. So just FYI on that, that's something that's become very popular for a lot of our customers.
And to highlight what Mike is saying, it's on the screen right now. So all of the Tableau employees have an automatic subscription to that. And so what you're seeing is what it looks like on the screen, where there's 2 different ways to look at it. We have the course way, like Mike just mentioned, where you have desktop, 101, 102, and that kind of thing. So you can follow on that path, but you can also do the learning paths here, where if you were someone who's new to Tableau or maybe you're a Tableau veteran, but you look at this training and you say, I don't know exactly which classes I should take. Tableau has put together learning paths for different roles. So whatever role you might have, or if you're hoping to change roles to something else, you can get prepared for that before you step into that role by going through some of these different courses that we put together for you in the learning path section. Or like Mike mentioned a moment ago, down at the bottom for courses, you have all the different elements like desktop, so certification, Tableau fundamentals, desktop 2, desktop 3, prep builder. There's a huge amount of content here. And for, like Mike just said, the cost it's a really good deal, put it that way, because when you actually subscribe to e-learning, you can come back in here anytime you want over that 1 year period. You can review things you've already learned, you can learn new stuff, and just refresh it anytime you want.
Yeah, and also, Jared, I see in the question, G. Vanine mentioned that Coursera has a few courses that are free without certificate and actually offered up the link. So I'm going to put that into the chat window, and you guys can click on
Fantastic.
that. Okay. So.
All right,
okay.
thanks, Mike. So
real quick,
there's one other question.
Yeah. Did you see the one in the chat window, Jared? The functionality of making changes to a workbook. Have you seen that, or you want me to read it?
Yeah. So basically, for everybody else who's not looking at the chat window, the question is from Julietta. It says, hello, is there a functionality where one can make changes to a workbook in desktop and then before publishing to the server or the final dashboard, preview the changes in an intermediate view before finalizing the changes? So there is a solution to this, Julietta, and there's not like an intermediate zone or something like that. Effectively, what this is using the capabilities of Tableau Server as is now. So I'm going to go to Tableau Server on the screen if you take a peek really quick. So you see that I have a lot of folders here in this area, and for different things. Like if I've done the Desktop 101 workshop, I would put some content there, but I have a test folder. So if I'm ever actually making content that I want to share with people, I have a test folder that's locked down to just myself or maybe one other developer. And I publish that content into the test folder, and I make sure everything looks right like you're talking about. And then once I've confirmed that, then I push it into the other folder that's appropriate, like for the Desktop 101 workshop. That way, those users then, I know what they're going to see, I know exactly how it looks, and I don't have to worry about having any surprises. That's the way we recommend people do that.
So it's kind of just staging, right, Jared?
Exactly. Yeah. So if you've been around IT for years, they have what they call the software development lifecycle process. I'm not going to get into all the details, but effectively what they suggest is that you have different environments where you develop basically the rough draft, the crude version of things you're making. You put that into a development space, like a folder or project here. And then when you have something that you want people to test, you move it into a test folder. And the difference there is that it's not just the developer, but it's also inviting in a few people to test the content to make sure it's what you want. And then the final folder is production. And that's basically saying this is polished, it's the final version, and it's ready for everybody to consume. But that's the old software development lifecycle process.
Hey, Jared, one other question that came up here in the not the chat window, in the question and answers. I couldn't find any online resources on how to filter by the color marks card. Is it possible to have a filter that can slice a dimension by color and then unslice it? I think I've heard that question before.
Let's see. Yeah, you can set the color. Well, I guess, let me find the documentation out to make sure I get that right. But you can basically, if you can use something on the marks card for color and show the difference there, you can use it as a filter as well. There's different ways to do that. So let me find the best documentation and I'll drop it in the window, okay?
That's perfect. That's in the question and answer. That's A. Parker 1 in that one, okay?
Okay.
All right, those are all the questions that I see here, unless there's something I'm missing.
Well, there's one other question that popped up in the chat window, and it says, let's see, do you have ETLs to databases to the Tableau server? So that's actually, the Tableau Prep Builder is an ETL tool. It's a light extract, transform, and load tool. So just really quickly for everybody else who's listening in, when we say ETL tool, it's a piece of software that moves data. So it extracts it from one location. You do a transformation on it, like cleaning up something or adding or taking away from the data set, and then you load it into a different location. That's what we built Tableau Prep Builder for, was to be able to connect your data in different database technologies. You can clean it up through different cleansing steps. And then that last step of an output, that's where you're loading it back into a different location. So yeah, in that too, we like to highlight whenever we do talk about Tableau Prep Builder, you pull that back up, that you can create an extract and send it back to the server, or like we talked about, that new functionality, you can, in the output step, load the data back into your original database. That way you can use it in other formats outside of Tableau.
All right, I think that's it, Jared. I think those are all the questions that we had that I'm seeing. Feel free to continue asking questions through the chat window or the question and answer, because I know Jared will be monitoring that. Jared, thank you so much. That was awesome. Thanks so much for updating us on the latest and greatest of what's going on with Tableau.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I'll still be in the chat. So if you guys have any other questions, I'll try to answer those as well, okay?
Fantastic. All right. So we are ready to jump to our next session. Again, it's another Tableau session. Kelly, are you out there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Can hear you just fine, Kelly. So
Right.
I think we mentioned that Kelly Flanders is the renewals rep for all of our state of California, and actually quite a bit of our higher. I think, Kelly, you pretty much all the public sector, right? You're managing all the renewals. That's a pretty big
Yes.
catch.
It is. Got a good group of customers though, so can't complain.
Outstanding. So Kelly is somebody that we always call on anytime anybody has a question on something when it comes to Portal. And, you know, Portal's kind of a challenge because it's not like something that people get into very often, right? So you're never going to become necessarily an expert, but it's definitely very important. And there's a lot of common questions that people ask. So we thought we'd have Kelly kind of maybe just do a little presentation on some of those more popular questions. And again, we'll keep this really interactive. One thing I will give her a plug for also that she does a great job with is working with customers to actually change their portal names to actually have some rhyme or reason within the organization instead of just Portal 1, right? So I'm sure she'll be talking a little bit about that, but that's something she can certainly add some value to in simplifying or making sense of your portal. So enough said, Kelly, why don't you take it from here? We can see your screen, by the way.
Okay, perfect. I was just going to double check. Well, thank you, Mike, for that introduction. Hello, everyone. As Mike said, my name is Kelly Flanders, and I am your dedicated renewals manager. My job really is to assist with asset management, renewals, and customer portal related questions. So as Mike mentioned, you know, not everyone may have access to the portal. Not everyone may need access to the portal, but there are some specific little things to know and best ways to maneuver through it if you do have access. So really today, I just wanted to walk you through the customer portal and just highlight a handful of key areas and discuss how to do certain tasks and offer, you know, best practices that I can. There's a lot to it in there that you can do. So just happy to answer any questions that pop up once we're done, and or I'm happy to follow up after this call as well. So what I'm going to share through today, it is a demo site. So just keep in mind, some things may look a little different from your end, but we can hash that out as we move forward through this. So for those of you who may be new to Tableau or the portal in general, Tableau delivers the product keys that you purchase or renew through the customer portal. So it really is your best resource for managing license keys, portal access. You can manage technical support cases and track those through the portal. It also gives you access to downloading the latest version of Tableau, and just quick access to resource links when you may need help. Or as Jared mentioned before, right, we've got links to knowledge base articles and videos that you can look out for and interact with. And we've added all that stuff here to the portal. So if you look here, this is the home page that you'll see when you officially log in. You'll notice, as kind of we mentioned, right, there's helpful tips and instructions listed here in the middle of the page. This kind of walks you through how to add users to the portal, how would I register keys, any new additional information that's added to the portal, all that stuff will be listed here just for a quick read. We've got the quick links here over on the side. As I mentioned, those knowledge-based articles, Tableau e-learning links, and then further down that page is that access to the latest version of Tableau desktop and those product downloads there. So easy access to get into certain things. Now, let's go ahead and dive into this licenses tab here. So this view here is where you can access a list of all license keys within the portal. Now, as I mentioned before, you know, keep in mind your view is going to differ depending on the role that you have assigned. but I'll go into a little bit more details on that here in a minute. For now, my role, what I'm showing you today, is I'm an administrator and I have admin access to a couple different portals. So I'm able to view all the licenses within those portals that I have that access to. So from this main page, you'll notice this is the default view. You're going to be able to assign the license keys to your users. You can check the maintenance status of those keys. You can click into those keys and view registration history and export your license key data as well. So you'll see here these several columns listed above. You've got your license key product codes here, product type, your end users, all the way through to the product version those keys are using and that maintenance period end date. Now, for an admin who may have access to multiple portals and multiple licenses, it can be a little daunting to go in and have to try to find keys that you may be looking for. So there are a few different ways to filter through this to make things a little bit easier. My favorite view I like to call out is just the license report. And what this does is provide additional columns and information here. If you are to scroll down here, you can actually go over and you can see here that I have multiple portals. So there's Tableau Software Inc. Demo, Tableau Customer Portal. Those are the different portal names that I have access to. So actually, let me come back here to this default view. So you can always filter through down here from the product names and then different department names here as well. And then if you know for a certain key that you're trying to search, right, there's this search bar here. And then you can also go through just server only keys. Or if you want to look at keys that are just expired, you can click on that to see what previous keys were that are no longer active that you have. So there's multiple ways to look through things here. Now, what I want to do is show you and walk you through actually assigning a license key and what that looks like. So to do so, we click on a license key here. And this is going to take you to the license detail page. Now, what we do here is when you see the key name, the product name, the customer information is blank as well as the registered information. So this tells me that this key has not been used or it's currently not assigned to anybody. So if I wanted to assign the key, I would simply go in here, click the assign key button, enter in their first name, last name, and email address, and select a user role. So there's really two user roles for the portal. You have download only, which gives access to the portal for this user, but they're only able to access their license key that they've been assigned to. And then they'll also be able to access those knowledge base articles and file technical support cases to our support team. But they will only be able to view their own key. They can't access all keys like I can as an administrator. And then obviously the administrator, as mentioned, has kind of access to everything in the portal. So based on what role you provide them, once you click this assign key, it will actually trigger an email to be sent out to that end user. They'll let them know they have a new key assigned to them and that they have access to the portal. There will be instructions and links shared to them telling them how to access it, get set up, and logged in properly. So that's really the main differences of the role types for the portal. One thing to note too is as an admin, you can assign these keys, but as download only, you cannot, right? It's just managing what you have assigned to yourself. Once the end user actually registers that key or activates it in Tableau Desktop, it automatically populates the registered user information in the portal. So this field will then be populated, and then this information will also reflect on the main license page as well. And then if you scroll down a little bit, once you do see registration history, it'll pop up here. So you can actually track how many people or who has actually registered that same license key over time. Another great thing to note is there are additional fields that we provide in the portal for customers to just help with additional tracking information. So you can actually go in and enter and put which department that key belongs to, customer ID information, and just additional customer notes. And again, once that stuff is entered in, it does reflect back on the main license page. To edit that information, you would simply just click that edit license key, scroll down in here, and be able to enter in that information. So just additional fields for you to be able to track keys a little better. Just going real quickly back to this license page, but like I said, once those keys are assigned and the registered user has activated that key, that information will populate here. And then as mentioned as well, right, you'll see department name and any notes that's been entered. Just a side note, sometimes, occasionally the assigned email and the registered email will differ. But obviously that assigned email column is who the license key was assigned to in the portal. And then the registered column is going to tell you the last end user who actually activated that license key. So it's possible what I've seen has happened is maybe the key has previously been assigned to Han Solo, right? But someone else information is entered into the registered column. So usually that means, right, Han used to have the key and then maybe Han left and now Kelly has registered the license key. It just wasn't assigned through the portal. Kelly may have just gotten that key emailed to her for her to register. So there are ways to clean it up, but that just basically just means, a new user has used it, and you can track that through that key registration history in the license detail page. So that's basically how you assign a license key. Again, it is pretty simple and all admins can do that. So if you maybe only have download only access and you are unsure of who those admins are in the portal to assist with needing to assign keys, you can always reach out to me personally or our customer service alias team, and they can provide that information too for you as well if needed. So moving forward, I also wanted to cover the account tab here. So this page is basically going to show what portals I have access to, as well as all the other users who have access to it as well. So you'll see here, I have admin access to two different portals, right? So if I click into here, this is the Tableau Software Inc. demo portal that I have access to. It will also list out all other users who have it, their information, and their role type. So admin or download only. And then it'll also tell you when the last time that person logged in. If you need to add users to the portal, let's say they don't need a license key, but you need to add a different individual to help kind of manage the keys for a certain department, you can easily do so from this page. You essentially would just click on add user and fill out that information, very similar to assigning a license key, and you're just basically giving them that role type. It will also send them an email triggering, letting them know that they now have access to the portal and to sign in. From there, you can edit a user too. So looks like Kelly has admin access. If that was maybe given to her by mistake and we need to switch it to download, you can easily do that through editing here. That'll change their role, and then easily just by clicking each selection here, you can remove users as well. Right, so pretty simple. It just provides a different view, an additional, I guess, filter of, hey, these keys are in this portal, and these are the additional users that also have access to it. Something to note that Mike did mention earlier. So, right, assigning license keys, adding users to the portal, that is all done through portal admins. I know sometimes we get requests to help with that, not a problem. We definitely can do it. And then we usually send follow-up links just to keep in mind for next time to be able to do from the customer side. But a couple things that Tableau does have to do in regards to making changes to the portal would be one, if we move license keys from one portal to another, right, Tableau will have to do that. So that is something that you can reach out to me, again, personally, or to our customer service team, and just relay that information that the keys need to move to one portal to another. We'll make that move, and then we'll confirm with you that that's completed. But once done, those admins should be able to see those new keys in the new portal. The other option is changing the portal names. So I'm sure there's some customers out there that have multiple portals and they all kind of just follow this like number order. There's no real rhyme or reason to why. Usually when a new license is purchased, if we're not aware of what portal it needs to go into, if there is an existing portal that that license key should be a part of, and we don't know that up front, customer service, when processing the order, will just kind of put it in a new one. So that's probably why there are multiple portals. But for most customers that we see, if not everything is consolidated into one portal yet, most portals are broken out individually by department. So if it does help to clean up your account, we can change those portal names to whatever kind of relates better to you in that department. That is something that we can do on the Tableau side. So also happy to assist there with any questions, or if you'd like to make those changes, I can get that over to my customer service team to do that. And really the last thing I just wanted to touch base with is throughout the portal, you always have direct access to submitting a case to our tech support team. And really if you submit a case to tech support through the portal, it's really the only way for you to be able to keep track of that case. And the way you do that is really by just clicking this Get Help link here. And it's on any view that you're on in the portal. You'll basically be directed to enter your support question into our knowledge-based article search here. So you'll just start typing. Sometimes those questions, if you've got time to sit through and read, sometimes those questions have already been answered. If not, you'll just scroll down and say, I need to just go ahead and create a case. If that's going to go through technical support, you would just enter in your information here. But from there, if you want to track those cases, you click on that case link here. And then any cases that you've submitted for yourself will be here. As an admin, if you are designated as a case administrator, you'll be able to track all cases throughout the portal that anyone has submitted. So that's another kind of additional permission that's there in the portal to use as an admin. But for me, that was really the main things that I wanted to point out today. So Mike or Gina, not sure if there are some questions there in the Q&A or chat, but happy to open that up if need be, or whichever's best.
Thanks so much, Kelly. We do have a couple of questions. It looks like the question
I'm sorry, Gina. I think most of the questions seem to be kind of directed more technical to Jared, are there any portal questions on that, Gina? I'm kind of looking through myself here and I don't see.
It says a customer portal only shows creator and server licenses, correct?
Perfect.
That's from Mina Bala.
They only show, say that again?
They only show
That's correct.
Yeah, creator and server licenses, yeah.
Yeah. If anyone has an online site, those online licenses will be viewable and assignable through the online site itself.
Awesome,
Hey,
thank you.
Yeah.
Jared, maybe go ahead. Was that you, Jared? Go ahead.
Yeah, that was me. I was just going to say, because basically in the portal, typically you have those different server licenses. So if people there's different types of server environments. You have either a core-based or a role-based. So for some people, this might just sound totally like abnormal or foreign. It's okay. If you have a role-based server, you have to buy a certain seat type. And so when you're in the server environment, you might see those listed off as to what types of seats you have. But the way that it's covered in the portal is that you have basically a server key that's applied to the server to give you those seats in the server environment. So I know that's a little bit complicated. I don't want to dig in too deep if you guys don't need that.
Okay. Gotcha. And one question, Andy Tran, hello, CDCR, has a question. Could you cover key owner and how that is different from admin?
Yeah. Hi, Andy. I know you've had this question kind of in the past. So the key owner, there is a role or a field that you can enter in as an owner. And to be honest with you, it does cause a little bit of confusion, I think, with a lot of customers, because technically, the owner would reflect the individual that purchased a set of keys, right? However, there is a different role where you can assign a person to be an owner of a group of keys. And basically that owner just manages, let's say, 5 license keys that were purchased. You can either give the owner admin role or download only role. If that owner is going to be download only because they are only allowed to see those 5 keys, right? they can't be an admin, because if you're an admin and an owner, you'll be tagged as an owner to those 5 keys, but you're still going to see all the other license keys within the portal. So, and I think, Andy, if I remember correctly, we were trying to see if the owner of those license keys could actually assign them, but they aren't able to because they have that download only role. So it's a little tricky, and I know it can be a little more confusing too, because sometimes if Tableau does something with those 5 keys or any keys, and let's say we converted them or we moved them around, you'll notice in the owner column that sometimes it says, it populates like customer operations or this SVC tower. And I think that throws some people off of like, who is that? No one here is by that name that owns these keys. So it's a little cloudy, to be honest with you, but an owner basically is supposed to just be able to manage like a set group of keys. And if they are only going to be able to view that group of keys, they can only have the download only role.
Kelly, I have one other question because it's a really good one that Jody Simpson had asked. My users are not receiving an email after being assigned a key. Is there something that needs to be done to trigger an email?
Are they, when she assigns the key, so let's do this. You click into a key, when you assign a license key, typically the only thing that's going to trigger an email to them is if you are selecting a role type. So if you assign a key to Mike, you've got to tell the portal, I'm going to give them download only or admin role. If you don't give them access to the portal, they're not going to receive that email notification.
Oh.
Because there's no, you wouldn't be logging in to access a key. So if you don't give them portal access, then I think probably the best thing would be you would have to provide them the license key yourself.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I jump in there really quick? So like when I was at UC Davis Health, that was part of my job was what you're seeing here. I had to actually manage all the desktop keys and all the server activity and that kind of thing. And we just built a process around it because like Kelly said, the majority of my users were just, simple creators. They just wanted to, create some stuff in Tableau desktop. So we just built a process out that when someone requested a key, that I would grant them one, but I had a template email I would send where I would, delete the previous key out and put the new key in for that individual. And then I would contact them and help them onboard into the server environment. So you should probably build a process like that.
Yeah, some people use the portal for all their users and others do it like how Jared did. So it's just really what works best for you. Thanks for that, Jared.
Perfect.
You're welcome.
Why don't we do this? I know I see Sarah Parnell has a question in regards to servers and such. I'm wondering if we kind of more technical for you, Jared. Well, let's answer that real quick. Sarah asked a question, does Tableau have anything in the works that will help a developer to point to different servers from Tableau desktop? Does that make sense, Jared?
So yeah, for sure. So I mean, you can publish to different server environments right now from Tableau desktop. It's basically you have to connect to the server you want. And then once you've published, you can just basically log out of that server and then log into the other server right now. There is nothing planned right now that would show you multiple different Tableau server connections and allow you to just hop back and forth quickly. So I guess that's the answer to your question. If that's what you're looking for, we're not developing that right now. But you do have the capability of connecting to other environments. It's just that it's a little bit more tedious. You have to go through those steps for each individual environment you want to connect to.
And the server management add-on doesn't do anything to improve that story, correct?
It doesn't do anything like that. Nope.
Okay. All right. I'll tell you what, we'll continue to monitor these questions. I'm going to keep the ones we didn't answer. We'll hold on and we'll answer here later. But I do want to get to our next presentation. Kelly, thank you so much. And of course, as we had mentioned before, please feel free to reach out to Kelly or reach out to Kenny and I, Kenny or I. We can certainly get you in touch with Kelly, set up meetings, whatever we need to do.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
She's there to support you all. And Kelly, thank you so much. That was very insightful.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have our next presenter, and that is going to be, whoops, hold on a second here. Our next presenter is going to be actually a customer presentation. It's going to be a presentation that's done by CALTRANS. Again, I talked to you, I think about, 3 years ago, Rich Williams. Rich Williams is the chief for the project delivery division of CALTRANS. Basically, with that, his group facilitates the delivery of the capital projects. So for Staten, the whole highway system. They're on the delivery side of that. And he actually saw the vision, I guess it was, gosh, Rich, I want to say definitely 3 years, well, I'm sure it was at least 3 years ago. And I know Melissa Thompson in Asset Management, both of you really saw the vision of what Tableau might be able to do to help Caltrans and some of the things you guys were looking to accomplish, or kind of change the way you guys are doing business. And also Robert Edwards, who works for Rich Williams. Some of you may know that name because I think, Robert, you did a presentation, I want to say a little over a year ago, when you were you were just starting out with Tableau. Robert,
it was
actually,
2 years ago.
Was it that long? Oh my goodness. Yeah, I guess
I'd
so.
only been working for 6 months at the time at CALTRANS.
So it was a bold offer. Robert had just started working with Tableau, and we got some really positive feedback because there's a lot of users that said, you know what, it was nice to have somebody give a presentation of somebody that is not an expert, somebody that just kind of started up with Tableau, and what they were able to accomplish in really a short amount of time. So that was really great, Robert. But Robert's come a long way since then. So he's got some other stuff to show you. So do we have Rich on as well? You guys both on now?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. So enough said. Why don't I pass it over to? Why don't we pass it over to you guys? I think we have the ability for Robert to share his screen, and Rich, I'm not sure if you're going to share your screen, but let me know if you.
I'm gonna share. Yeah, I'll share mine.
Okay.
So I missed the little the pre-meeting tech testing period. So hopefully this is working. So I just shared my screen. This is a dashboard that I'm showing, but it looks like a story. And Robert will get into the details later about how this was developed. But we initially developed a whole bunch of screens, and then determined later that we could combine them all into one dashboard for simplicity. But then we left all the individual screens up here. So if you want to see any of these at a larger scale, you can still go into the individual screens. So this is very busy as it is, but it's not. I don't think anyone would actually use it in this format. The key is all these filters over here. You can filter by district or region or project category or program code, which is the type of project, safety improvements, bridge pavement, those kinds of things. And then fiscal year, this is CCA, means construction contract acceptance. So this is all for data that's it's for projects that are completed already. So we're looking at projects, actual expenditures. So for projects that completed in these years, and right now I'm just selecting the last 4 fiscal years. But just to define what support to capital is, support is the cost of getting a project ready to build and then also inspecting it when it's being built. And then capital is the cost, the actual construction cost, and the cost of buying any land, any right-of-way that we needed to buy for the project. So our support phases are broken up. We have 4 of them. We have phase 0, which is environmental, or in the legend we call it PA&ED, but it's the environmental phase. And then we have the design phase is red, the right-of-way support phase is yellow. So that's the cost of the staff time to buy property and relocate utilities, things like that. And then the green is construction support. So the cost of inspecting the contractor's work. So this is kind of an efficiency measure, and the goal, we don't really have set goals for support to capital, but we wanted to, we want to minimize it. And you can see the trend over the last 4 years, it has been going down, so that's good. We're heading in the right direction. I didn't mean to do that. So, and I keep getting a message that says my internet is unstable, so things are running a little slow. Let me reset that.
I think we're seeing what you're seeing. I don't see too big of an issue on our side, but
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I accidentally selected one of the years and it filtered everything. So, we have it here by year up here, and then we have it by category of project and the legends over on the right. So the green is is legal and regulatory mandates. And that's like ADA, ADA improvements. They tend to have the highest support to capital ratio because they take a long time. Each site is unique and requires a lot of design effort, but then when you actually put in a curb ramp, it's, $500 worth of concrete. So they have high support to capital ratios. And the cheapest are the yellow ones, which are major damage. Those are emergency projects where we're not doing much design. We just go out and build them. We kind of direct the contractor as he's working. This pink is roadside preservation. So it's like a roadway preservation is pavement projects. They're easy to design and the pavement costs a lot. So they have low support to capital ratio. And then we did it down here by construction capital, like the size of the project. And this is kind of intuitive too. The bigger the project, the lower the support to capital. So this is the smaller projects is this top line, less than $1 million. They have the highest support to capital ratios, and it just gets, the support to capital goes down as the projects get bigger. We did it here by district. And this is right now, it's filtered for phase 0, the environmental phase only. But so we can tell which districts are kind of, most efficient, least efficient. And then we have this one is by category, program category. So we have bridge preservation, collision reduction, the legal mandates, so it's by category, like type of project and project size. And then we just have the scatter plot, which is, that's super noisy right now because this is showing you all projects. But if you wanted to just focus on, say, safety projects, I'll just do this. It's going to be slow because because my connection is not that good. But, if I filter for just safety projects, then it becomes more, I guess, less noisy and more useful. Yeah, and then you can see, so now they're all the same color because we're looking at just safety projects. And then the shape is district. And we have a legend down here for the district. And we just recently added a trend line with confidence intervals. But how this can be useful is, say, you're an employee in District 8 and you want to work on a safety project and you're, the capital cost is $10 million. You can filter by district, by size of project, by type of project, and see all the previous projects that fit that criteria. And then you can see, you might have developed a work plan, just bottom up work plan. Then you would use this to just check to see if your estimate is in the ballpark. Like, is your support to capital ratio for that project similar to similar completed projects, or are you, way low or way high? And if you're way low and way high, then, you should have a way to explain why you're way low or way high. Maybe there's something specific about that project that's different than anything we've done before, So anyway, that's kind of an overview of what this tool does. It's for internal use only. It's not shared on the internet. That's why, we're using terms and codes that people aren't going to understand unless they work at Caltrans. But I'll turn it over to Robert. And like Mike mentioned, Robert's been here about 2.5 years. We hadn't used Tableau at all before he got here, and he hadn't used it either. And this visualization of this dashboard has really evolved over the last couple of years. Like I said, developing one screen at a time and tweaking them, and then eventually combining them all into one dashboard. So Robert can kind of run through the technical side of it. Does anyone have questions about like the need and purpose and why we developed this and what it's used for? All right.
All right. Well,
so I guess you go ahead and take over, Robert.
All right. Well, thank you, Rich. Let me go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. All right. So, and I'm going to go ahead and start where Rich was at right here. I'm going to go to full screen. Just I want to show, I like to start from the end and show you where, you know, with the end product, and then kind of I'm going to tell a story from when it started, where I started, and then how I got to this point. So I think this is better if you view it, if you get rid of some of these, like let's say these districts would like to compare themselves to each other, like District 4 and District 7 are large districts, maybe add District 3 in there possibly. Let's say 3, maybe 11. There we go. And then, so what I'm going to do here is get rid of this, because let's get rid of that less than $1 million. Get rid of some of these projects. All right, there we go. And so that's a better view of it. And so, yeah, like Rich was saying, so I have these are all individual projects here on the scatter plot. And then the color you see is the category, and it all matches. So this is by category. So these 3 are by category. This is this legend here. By phase, and these are by phase. And then you see the here are the districts. This is 3, 4, 7, and 11. And then all of the information is in the tooltip you see there. And so we just added these confidence interval lines. And then this is the parameter. So you could go through, like Rich was saying, by the phases, and you'll see as they will all change as I'm selecting through the phases. So like phase 3 is construction support. And you see how everything adjusts based on that. I want to show this as a kind of a neat trick here where, you know, you could make this go from year to quarter to month, and it can even go further than that. And then go here and it will go back. Both of these, or all 3 of these, I should say, are set up that way. So you can see if you want to look at it a little more closely. I'm going to show something real quick. Okay, and then, so like I said, these are the individual sheets. There's district, county map, which just go through some of these. Line graph. They're easier to see this way. All right, so yeah, and so I like this view here. So like I said, if you filter this, you know, you can maybe select a few more. But those confidence intervals, you know, really help you to isolate those projects that are outside of that, right? Like, why is this one so low? Why is this one up here, right? And you can look further into it afterwards. All right, so that's where, yeah, kind of where we're at right now. I want to go back here to the beginning. So this is where we started at, and we just had 5 sheets, which were, you in a story. Everything was in a story at the time. So we had, hold on a second. I feel like I'm having a little bit of an internet issue here as well. Here, let me try to. Let's see if I can grab another one. If it works. All right, so let me look at this one then, if this one's gonna work. Oh. We're having connection issues with the database, so that's what it was. So the earlier versions were connected as a live connection, and that's why you'll see this here like that. This is the later version. It is an extract, so it's not going to have as that big of an issue. Here we go. Let's see if this works now.
When you were connecting live, what was the data sources you were connecting to? I'm just curious.
Well, we're still connecting to Sap, which is our main, basically, table here. I'm trying. This was working earlier. I don't know why it's not working now. But let me see if this one reconnect. Yes. Let's try this one. This is better. All right, so this one is working. Let's check this out. Yeah, here it goes. And so I'm connected to our server here. And this is the table here, Sap. And this one should actually, yeah, this one is a live connection as well. Oh, sorry, no, it's an extract. So we went from a live connection until I met with our guy, John Espinosa, who controls our database, Cumers, and determined we don't have live data. So initially we did a live connection because we thought, live data is better than an extract. But the problem with live connection is that the live connection constantly pings the server every time somebody looks at it, and they're not getting live data. The data is from the day before, and it refreshes at early in the morning sometime, depending upon which, whether you're connected to dev or standby or test, which time that happens. And so it puts an excess load on the server, and it's constantly hitting it and putting a new load on it. And some of these, like on this, you see it only has 9,400 records, and it's an extract. The initial version, which it's not working right now for whatever reason, has more like 30,000 rows, and it's a live connection, and it has about 200 columns. With this one has about 25 columns. And part of that is that, and I'll just go ahead and do this right now, since I'm talking about it, is when you go here, this is, I can see here. And then the first thing is you got to refresh all extracts. Okay, so do this. And this is in order to decrease the load on the server here. Okay, so you have the live connection is the one thing to move that over to the extract. And so because it's an extract, now everybody is just looking at that extract, and they're not hitting the server every time somebody looks at it. Okay, but how did I get rid of all those tables, all those fields though, right? Because there was like 200, I want to say 220 something fields, and now we're down to about 25. So first thing you do here is you go to data and refresh all extracts. Then you go to help, setting in performance, start performance recording. And then go back here again, and then stop performance recording. And then what will happen is there's going to be a window that's going to pop up here in a minute. And then let's see here. Let's try it again. What should happen is this will be, it should have that a green bar you'll see. And then we're going to try this again. I'm having a little internet issues here. And you click on there and download the data. There we go. All right. So let's try it again. I don't know why it's not showing up, but anyways, once that happens, you'll select download the data just like you would on right here. And you select data, and then full data. Here we go. You'll just select it like that. And then what will happen is there's going to be a box in here where it will have the SQL code, and that'll show just the fields that you're using. And then take that SQL code, give it to, in my circumstance, John Espinoza, database administrator, and then he creates a materialized view. And so instead of using sip out, I'm using a customized file that's called, he just calls it support to capital, and it's run under a different schema. So the initial schema I'm running this, I did this under was humors, they call it ape. And then this one is Tableau, created my own schema for it. And you see there's a couple on here. There's one that says C-Tips Mountain View, and then this one is support to capital. So these are, you see how far that one is, and then versus, let's see if this one will work. There we go. All right. I'm gonna try to just open that up again. There we go.
Hey,
All
Robert,
right.
I want to give you just a heads up. We're at the 5-minute mark, so I just want to make sure I let you know that. Okay.
All right. Sorry about that. I'm just having some
Nope,
issues
it's-
here. So, okay. So just wanted to show how many fields are in this one. All right. So that's where we were starting initially. Okay. And you can see the way that we had the fields, the filters were listing everything. And the new style, I have them as drop downs. So let me go over, since I'm running low on time, just go back to this one and show some of what I did here. So we showed I have a parameter that changes all of the data. Okay, so I'm going to show what I did with that. So that I just created, it's not in the data. So I just chose, you know, what it is, phase 0, 1, 2, 3, and then I created one called total. And then from there, I created a bunch of calculated fields. And you can see here where what you do is it says, if the phase is this, right, then do this formula, which this is the formula for doing, these are all the support costs divided by the capital cost. And let me go over some of the highlights of what we went through. Initially, we just had the 5, like I said. We went to 8, where we added a county map, a stacked chart, which is this one here, which is showing the phases, and it has the total. And I use the tooltip a lot to show all of these calculations. And then we added a pie chart in the second iteration. It wasn't this version, it was a different version. The third iteration, which is this one that doesn't want to work, went up to 14 pages. And that's where we really decided, you know, we need to not have so many pages here, because you could keep scrolling over and over and you couldn't see all the pages. So we went to creating one dashboard. And on that one where we had the 14 pages, we added a scatter plot and line by category, bar chart by category, and here's the ones where I do by category. And if you see here, so this is, I'm just gonna undo this real quick. So this is 2 different line charts, and you see they have different axes measures here. So to fix this, you need to just select dual axis here, and then right click here and then say synchronize. And then that synchronizes the axis. And then you see I have, again, in the tooltip, all the percentages for the phases. And then here you see that this is where the parameter, and it does all of these calculations, changes as you go through them. So I'll just show you, like, here's an example, right? So this is the phase 0 support cost divided by the total support cost. We also, in the earlier versions, did not have right-of-way capital involved. And so in these ones, it does have right-of-way capital. So let me end right-of-way support. Here, I want to show this, you know, this is the best fit line added with the confidence intervals. And I just want to, what's wrong? What's wrong?
We need to get on our test and it turned off, and this is really important.
Okay, I'll come help you. All right, give me one moment. All right. And you see, so initially it looked like this, all right, which is kind of crazy. And so you go edit and then unclick this button right here. And then you can go where it just has one line and it's just for the total. All right, give me 1 second. So, hold on one moment. My son is having a breakdown here.
The challenges of working remotely.
Yeah, he's got this Google updates his Chromebook at this most inappropriate times, and it turns off his computer.
Oh boy.
So
hey, I know we're at the final minutes here. So any final words you want to say real quick here before we conclude?
Well, I would just say that, you know, to go over here to the dashboard. That, you know, the one thing about the that is helpful is to make sure that you go through and look at and make sure that everything is linked, right? So if you click on the things on what different, like this is the dashboard, I think. Yeah, right here. And every box you can click on and click this filter, click here, make sure it fits entire view. Make sure that everything is used to be a filter, align and format the tooltips. These formatting options, you need to format the story, the dashboard, and the worksheet to all look the same. And if you see when you go and just like hit format, that it's all, these are just like Microsoft options, right? So they're all kind of very simple to use if you know, go through and use them. I like to, you know, put these little formatting things in here. So then when you go to the dashboard at the end, it looks really nice, you know, and just use the different capabilities, like on, let's say the scatter plot one that I showed here, where they have the shapes for the district, the color for the category, right? And then you have metrics here, which are the expenditures, the percentage, the dollars. And so you have a lot of things working all at the same time. And, you know, if you can keep the in-source fields, like there's ways that you can change things and say, like, if it's within this group of dates, give it this fiscal year. But if you can leave it just as the fiscal year like this, then you can, you have more functionality to zoom, to go back and forth to quarter to month, and whatnot. So sorry about all the technical issues that, you know, everything was working, I promised, before we got
No,
on
I
the
know.
line.
We actually saw it through the run through, but thank you
Yeah.
so much. I very much appreciate it. Great information. And by the way, if anybody needs to, you know, Robert's always very accessible. If you guys want to connect with him, please just shoot me an email, because I know he's a real active member of the Tableau community here in the state of California. So please let me know if we can put you in touch with you, Robert, on any follow up on this. Robert and Rich, thank you so much for the great presentation. Really appreciate all the information. And I don't know, do we have any questions for Robert before we conclude here? I want to make sure.
I think there was one question. It just said, who is your audience and how did they tell you what they need?
Yeah, great
How they
question. Yeah, who
determine
is
the
your
need.
audience? So when you're developing, Rich and Robert, when you guys develop this dashboard, who actually is utilizing this?
Really the main audience at the beginning was the upper managers, like our chief engineer and our chief deputy director. They've been real interested in this dashboard.
Right.
Now, you know, now that it's really working and all synced together into one dashboard, it's also useful more for you know, the division chiefs in the districts, project management division chiefs, design division chiefs, and then even down lower than that to project managers and design, you know, designers, project engineers. So it's really there's a lot of customers, you know, we're trying to do a lot with one dashboard. That's why I was saying, when you first look at it, it's very busy. There's a lot there, but once you start to apply filters, it becomes more and more useful and meaningful.
Well, and I could see where the districts would actually be able to sort and just see their view of the world, just their district, right? And I could see some value there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where that trend line actually came from, was a request from the district. So
Yeah.
I know that, yeah, the districts use it as well. So, you know, most of these that I've made that come from, well, they generally always come from Rich, but, you know, a lot of them are used at the various districts and, you know, other, you know, management in Caltrans.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. Perfect. Well, hey, thank you so much. Awesome. And a great presentation. And I think we're going to, you know what, Kenny, I think I'm going to pass this over to you.
Yeah, that's
because,
fine.
You've been working so much with the state here when it comes to the COVID and vaccinations and all that. So why don't you go ahead and introduce?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Mike. So Steve, do you want to just do a little quick tech check, see if you can unmute yourself? And yay, there you are. Awesome.
Hi, everybody.
That was the first try. That's great. I love when it works. So I am introducing Steve. Thank you so much for jumping on with Analytica Consulting. Steve's been, I would say, definitely deep in the weeds from the onset with all things COVID, helping out CDT and CDPH and really informing all of us here at the state of California, really what's going on. So with that, let me turn it over to Steve, and you can talk about all the great things that are happening there, and then what are some of the challenges as well. Oh, you're on.
I was muted now, but can you hear me now?
You're great, thanks.
Okay, excellent. Well, good morning, everybody. So I presented, I think, at 1 or 2 Tableau user groups ago, where we talked about all of the work that we're doing with the state of California to respond to the COVID pandemic using Tableau and our data analytics capabilities. So today's presentation, I'll give you a quick reminder of that, and then also jump right into what we're doing with vaccinations. So my background, as Kenny said, so I'm the CEO and founder of Analytica Consulting. Prior to working at Analytica, I was the director of analytics for Qualcomm for about 10 years. And then prior to that, I worked at Accenture within their media and high tech practice for another 10 years. all in all, about 20 years of data analytics and software engineering expertise, lots of publications with some of the work that I've done. And our firm is very much focused on helping our clients utilize analytics and technology to help improve any type of business process or patient outcome, or in this case with the COVID project, help with the emergency response and hopefully save lives. So what we do is we have a lot of focus in different areas. We've been working with the state for about 6 years now, very much focused within the public health arena and healthcare. But we have quite a bit of domain expertise in other areas, such as the life sciences space. We work with some of the biotechs out there like Illumina and Becton Dickinson, quite a bit in manufacturing, marketing, product development, and finance. And we do everything from visualization all the way through data engineering and machine learning and predictive analytics. And then we were also voted recently one of the best places to work in San Diego in 2020. So we were really proud of that nomination. So to catch everybody up on what we've done with California. So when the pandemic began, we became part of the governor's office dashboard task force. And if you're familiar with Governor Newsom and his daily addresses, all of those stats that he produces on those daily addresses around 11 or 12 o'clock every day, all of that data that he's presenting is essentially coming from the partnership that we have with the California Department of Technology and the California Department of Public Health. So the mission of the entire engagement when we first started was to essentially help do two main things. The first is to help enable all of the public health officials and their governor's office with real-time data related to the pandemic, very much focused on California. And then the second was to help inform the public and show them the data so that the public can stay more informed about what's happening with the pandemic and how the government is responding and what are the statistics and so forth. So the results were, this was a pretty massive effort. We've been supporting it for about 1 year now, and it was a massive data engineering and data integration effort to get all of the data from the various agencies into one centralized repository. And then once we were able to do that, and while that was being built preliminarily, we were developing dashboards in Tableau that showed, from the beginning, cases and deaths and ICU admissions and so on and so forth. Here's kind of the timeline of how things have fallen into place. So, when we started in early Q1 of 2020, that's when we noticed that there was that first community transmission of COVID-19. It was in San Francisco. And then, we got involved with the governor's dashboard task force because we published our own COVID dashboard that was in the San Diego Union Tribune. And, the Department of Public Health and Department of Technology noticed our efforts, and then they quickly made us become their main vendor to support this entire effort. And around Q2 is when we started launching our dashboard. So, internally and both on the public side, we have a case statistics and demographics dashboard that has about 100 million views. It's out there on Tableau Public. We've got dashboards on PPE supply and demand, and then we shifted to analyzing ICU bed availability and alternate facility usage when we had that second wave. And then when things quieted down in the summer, we started looking at secondary impacts of the pandemic, which included the homeless impact and then the economic impact. And then that whole blueprint for reopening was launched where, certain metrics are used to open up county by county based on, the number of cases per 100,000, the positivity testing rate. So all of that data was managed by us in partnership with the state. And now, most recently, we are very much heads down focused on supporting the vaccine distribution and sort of getting more shots into arm using data as much as we can. So this is and to caveat this, there's a lot of data challenges when it comes to, getting a good understanding of what's happening with the vaccine rollout in California. And I'll talk about that in a second, but this is all that we have publicly launched right now. I can walk you through it real quick, but essentially, let me share my whole desktop. A lot of the data that we publish publicly is all available on covid19.ca.gov. So, I'll give you a quick run through, then we'll jump to the vaccine dashboard. But if you click on state dashboard, so this isn't Tableau, but these numbers are getting fed directly from our Snowflake data warehouse. And then of course you can get to the vaccination data right there, but all of this is Tableau. So all of the case and daily deaths, the testing, the impact on the hospitals, so on and so forth. And then if you go here, you'll actually see all of the data models, and then we've got the full dashboard. So this particular dashboard is the one that has over 100 million views. This is our case demographics and case statistics dashboard. And of course, with the demo gods always against you, this loaded within seconds before I jumped on this presentation, but it's still loading. So while that loads, I'll jump to the vaccine dashboard. But the vaccine dashboard right now it's in its infancy. We've been working on it since about November, I would say. Internally, we're definitely showing a lot more. Externally, we are just basically showing the public what the administrations look like by county. So you can kind of hover over each county and kind of see, how many shots in arm and doses were administered. And then you can see a high level summary of, how many were administered versus how many were shipped and allotted, and so on and so forth. Internally, we're looking at it in a very detailed fashion. The reason why we're not releasing more information to the public is because there's quite a number of data challenges that I'm going to walk through. And once we've got those sorted out, then we feel comfortable with sharing that with the public. But, we are doing quite extensive analysis internally. And hopefully this dashboard loaded by then. And this is the other dashboard I was talking about that shows all of the cases. So we want to get to something like this. This is a very high level of detail in terms of what's happening with the cases. And case data was a little bit of a simpler problem to solve. So, if you're thinking of cases, a lot of that's going into one central repository in terms of all the lab testing. The deaths is a different repository. So we really had to integrate two main systems here. With vaccinations, we have to integrate 6 systems. So I'll walk you through the 6, and that'll kind of get everybody onto the same page as to why. So when you think of vaccines, there's 3 things that you need to look at. You have to look at shipments, which is what we are shipping out and what we're getting from the federal government. You have to look at allocations, which is what we're allocating to the different counties and what we call MCEs, which is multi-county entities. And those are large entities like Kaiser and UCSD and Dignity Health and Adventist. So they get their own allocations. And then the counties get their allocations for all their internal health systems. So the shipments and the allocations are across 3 systems. There's one for shipments and there's 2 for allocations. You may have heard of CalVax. So there's 2 versions of that. And then we have administration, and that's the registry where we're capturing all of the, all of the shots in the arm, what's actually been administered to every single patient. That is coming from 3 systems. So the challenge with, we've got a good handle on integrating the shipments and allotments. What we don't have a good handle on yet, and we're working through the data to fix this, is to basically create a very detailed record, no matter where you are in California, no matter who gave you that vaccine, exactly where that occurred, exactly the provider that provided it to you, exactly the location and address of where you got that, and have that, be, one record, one master record across the 3 systems, or the 3, geographical systems. So the 3 systems are basically split up. As you can see on this map, you've got something called CARE2. That's the newer version of a system called CARE, which stands for California Immunization Registry. It covers about 48 counties of the 58 in California. And then you've got the 7 counties in the San Joaquin area. They're using their own system called, I can't remember the name, but it's a subset of CARE. And then you have another system that San Diego uses, which is where I'm from, which is completely separate. And so the challenge that we're seeing is, matching providers. So, we've got the data coming from San Diego, the data coming from San Joaquin, the data coming from the other 48. And, the issue that we're having is, trying to figure out, well, if you got a shot at Kaiser in LA, the way that the data is coming across is it doesn't really tell us that you got it in LA. We know that you got it at Kaiser. We don't know what site. So we're having to do some, lookups and analysis to see, okay, well, what's your address? And, what are the chances that you went outside LA to get the shot? And what's the address of the provider that assigned the shot? And what's the address of the tech that put it in your arm? So we're looking at all this data to kind of pinpoint exactly where you got it from. Now, one can say, why not just go to Kaiser and get the data from them? It sounds like a simple solution. And, obviously, yes, if we went one by one to each one of these, eventually we would get their data sets. But if you think about these hospitals and how inundated they are, a request like that would probably take a few months to get. And then don't forget, we have to keep getting those data sets every single day. We'd like to get them on the hour if we can, so that we can have, daily statistics throughout the day. But, we're fine with daily updates for now. So, it's not really a possibility. So we have to rely on, these data association techniques, and then bringing in some more public information to kind of decipher exactly where that shot in the arm occurred. And now it's not happening across all the providers. It's really just happening across the very large ones. So, the Sutter, the Dignity, the Kaiser, the UC, the Adventist, those are the big ones. And then the other issue that we're having is, sometimes providers are, the data is coming across that, this provider assigned the shot or, approved you to get the shot, but we didn't get the information that they're associated with a Dignity or a Sutter. So we have to now do that reverse lookup and see, okay, we saw this provider come across, the affiliated hospital wasn't there. Can we, decipher that so that when we allot our shots to Kaiser or to UC or to some of these other entities, we make sure we're not giving them too much or too little. So that's really the data problem that we're trying to solve. It's challenging, but we're very much close to figuring it out. I would say that probably by mid-February, I think that we're going to have a really good data flow in place so that we could figure these exact issues out. And then the challenge after that is, this is just provider information in terms of hospitals and doctors. Once the pharmacies start administering these more, obviously the CVS and the Walgreens data is very easy to solve. But as we get little pharmacies, providing more shots and more vaccines, that creates some issues, especially if they're multi-county. So, we've been working through these challenges as hard as we can. That's why, you're not seeing the most detailed information online publicly, but we're very confident that we're going to be able to get there. And, with our data science techniques, I think we're a great, excellent resource for the state in order to get through that problem. So, next steps. And again, I didn't have too much to present today. I think that, once we've got a more detailed dashboard out there, I'd love to be able to, have my staff jump on and show you, open up Tableau desktop and show you how we built it. But, until then, this is really what we're going to be focusing on. It's really looking at, what automation and data engineering solutions can we put in place to kind of get some of this data to be more streamlined and automatic, so that we can have that detailed analysis enabled accurately. And then the next big thing that we're going to be working on, and what I've been talking to the state about, is, it's great that we're going to be able to allocate to Kaiser and the counties, but, I think personally that we should allocate based on demographics and bring in census data, and then aligning the allocations based on the tiers based on census data. And that's a very possible thing once we've got, a little bit more accuracy in terms of who's out there, where they live, where they're, what system they're associated with. And then we'll be able to do that very detailed forecasting. And I think that that would greatly, greatly improve the distribution efforts. And then, of course, it's one thing to forecast. Once you forecast, you want to be able to have very accurate monitoring, because as you're assigning, and allotting these vaccines to these providers and counties, and if you can go down to a lower granular level, that's even better. You want to be able to accurately monitor those shots in the arm. So I think that, solving the data engineering problems is a must. We have to get over that hump. And then that's going to enable us to do the forecasting. And then the forecasting is going to get improved as we have the accurate monitoring. And then we'll kind of rerun the models and see how how the allotments and shipments and administrations are occurring, and then tweak the forecast in the model to adjust to that, to get it to be more and more efficient and more accurate. So, what we're applying to this problem is nothing new. We've done this in so many different arenas, both, in the public and private sector. I think the challenge with this is, because this is such a, everyone kind of asks me, why are vaccinations taking so long? And the answer I kind of give them is, this is a pretty massive effort. If you think about it, there's 50 million people in the state of California. We're vaccinating at about 200,000 a day right now. That's a pretty decent number, considering we're about 6 to 8 weeks in. Obviously, it can be improved. And I think that, using data and providing, more accurate allotments is definitely something that can help improve the effort. And, I think the first problem we have to solve is just to get this data cleaned up so that we can get much better monitoring. And then that monitoring helps improve the forecasting and getting the more shots into the arm. So that's where we're at today. I'll open it up for any questions and comments.
Thanks, Steve. I'm going to look to see if there is there's a few in the chat. It says, why doesn't the state publish the county level data that determines the reopening tiers? It would be great to have a dashboard that shows our current position versus the goals.
Yep, so that's there. So there is if you go to covid19.ca.gov, so there's a county map. This talks about every single county and where every single county is at in terms of reopening. So as you can imagine, the whole state's purple. Obviously, I know that the governor lifted the stay-at-home orders recently, and that's because we are forecasting, along with a lot of the epidemiologists, that things are improving slightly. So, we used to have a regional view, which was this. So we switched from the regional view when we were in the lockdown from mid-December till about a few days ago, to the count. We're kind of going back to a county view right now. And if you go to each county, you can kind of see, where each county is falling within the tiers of widespread, substantial, or moderate. And then obviously you can see how they're defining that. And again, we're not involved in any of the policy making or the decisions of, whether this number should be 7 or 6. All we're doing for the state is we're giving them that number. We're saying San Diego, based on the data that we have, is a 7.1 or 7.8. So, if you come in here and you type in your county, if I type in San Diego, for example, you'll see that you'll get all the latest results. It'll tell you what's going to be open and closed per business type. And then, of course, the map shows you, across different counties. So we're slowly starting to see some counties move from purple to red. But, we're still not out of the woods. I mean, the ICU bed availability across the state is pretty much at 0 right now.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. There was another question in here. Is it considered, or have you considered looking at vaccination as a percentage of the population in each county?
Absolutely. So we're not showing that right now. We're just kind of giving you the number publicly, but internally, I wish I could show you our internal dashboard. So our internal dashboard basically looks at, who got vaccinated, where, why, what tier they fell into, what's their demographic, what dose are they on, what percentage of Kaiser got vaccinated in LA versus San Diego. Obviously, we're solving that with the MCE data issue that I'm talking about. But we're looking at all of that internally. We're just not publishing it publicly yet because, like I said, the data is not accurate. So we're still going through a lot of the testing to get to that accuracy for some of these larger entities. And I think once we get to a certain level of acceptable accuracy, then we'll be able to publish a very detailed dashboard similar to our cases dashboard, where you're kind of seeing like where every single case occurred and what the demographic is by case by location.
And I imagine fairly similar to testing and some of the other metrics. It's iterative, so as this moves forward, more information will be rolled out to the public.
Yeah, you'll see more and more. It's just that I think that this is a little bit of a bigger data challenge, and plus, like, you have to remember when vaccines started coming into play, when we hit 0% ICU bed availability. And so, this whole thing kind of came at the worst possible time. I wish the vaccines came over the summer when we had that lull. Then I think that you would have seen a much quicker response. But I think it's due to that.
And so, so looking at this vaccine data and some of the challenges, are you using like how much data manipulation is there at the front end? Are you using that in Tableau, or are you using something external for that?
External. So Tableau is basically, I wish I had an architecture slide up. I did have it in my presentation last time I went in front of you all, but so what we're doing, the architecture basically is you've got the data sources and we've got the data exported out of those sources flowing into a Snowflake data warehouse. I wouldn't even call it, it's like a data lake. And then all the manipulation is happening within Snowflake. And then we're kind of surfacing very clean data to Tableau. So we're not using Tableau for any of those associations. It's more of a visualization engine within Snowflake, and then even pre-processing it before it gets to Snowflake. We've got some Python models that we're writing to do some of that association and ranking, because if a record comes in and we notice that the person's address that got the shot in the arm isn't quite matching up with the provider's address, that means that they kind of, they could have gone out of county. And that's a common thing, by the way, because in Southern California, it's hard to go out of county. In LA, maybe a little easier, but in San Diego, it's really hard. I'm not going to drive to like El Centro to get a shot, right? But once you get in the middle, it's very easy to jump counties, and that's what we're trying to catch. So we're developing a ranking algorithm to see your address, the provider's address, the address of the tech, and then the address of where we think the facility was, and picking the closest one that has the truth.
Got it. Well, I appreciate the time. It looks like we have enough in Q&A. So I will, again, thank you for sharing this. I know it's going to be, again, iterative moving forward as these challenges with regards to all the data. And we'll definitely see you again down the road and see what is happening with that. So with that, I will turn it back over to Mike.
Thanks, everybody.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. Awesome presentation as usual, Steve. I think what I'll just do real quick is share my screen again with all of the contacts that we kind of started out with. So if anybody wants to follow up, I think we answered most of the questions. If not, please feel free to, there's so many out there now, and the latest and the greatest would be the easiest. So go ahead and just maybe republish a question if you do have one. But otherwise, you guys can see my screen now? I think so. Okay.
Yes, we can see it.
Perfect. Okay, so these are your contacts here from a Tableau perspective. We can always put you in touch with the presenters as needed, so please feel free to reach out to any of us and we can get that taken care of. We are recording this session, so you'll all get a link. Gina, you're going to send a link out to everyone so they can share this with anybody that maybe wasn't able to participate?
Absolutely, yes. It should be available probably by tomorrow, but Monday at the latest. And then also we're going to post it to our YouTube as well, the Tableau YouTube.
Oh, cool. Okay, very good. Outstanding. So is anybody looking right now with the questions or the chat? Is there any questions that have come in that we want to try to tackle before we conclude? few minutes.
There's a bunch coming in about what I just presented. I don't know
Oh,
if you
there
want
are.
to answer them.
Well, yeah,
yet.
let's take some, if you've got some time, let's go ahead and, we can definitely spend a little bit more time and answer some of those questions.
So
if you want.
Scott asked, is Analytica involved in monitoring / notifying for second dosages 3 to 4 weeks after initial dose? So we're not involved in the notifications. We're supplying the data to obviously CDPH and the entities to do those notifications, but we are involved in the monitoring. So, not a lot of folks have gotten their second dose yet. I can't remember the stats. I think we're at like 6% population first dose, and then under there's a fraction that have gotten the second. So, that is being heavily monitored just to make sure that we're within the window. So if you remember, the Pfizer vaccine is at 21 days, the Moderna is at 28, and then the J&J that's going to be going to have the federal authorization approval in February is going to be 1 dose. I don't know when that's going to start showing up in California, but for now we've got those 2. So there definitely is a lot of monitoring happening internally. And like I said, that's going to get published externally as soon as we've got really clean data. The challenge that I see for second doses is if somebody starts going outside of their original method, that's when we could have some issues in terms of figuring out, was that really a second dose and when did that occur, and so on and so forth. That's the only thing I can see there. A. Parker asked, how are you guys handling data cleanup for the COVID data? Are you having end users submit data changes, or are you guys manually making updates to the data warehouse? So we're basically, the registries that we're using, so the 3 registries that I mentioned in California, CARE2, the San Diego registry, and the San Joaquin, we're taking exports of that, and then we're running our algorithms to basically add mappings. So we've got the layer of the data coming from the registries. On top of that, we layer on the mappings that we're building to fill in the blank field. So, there are a lot of records that have no provider assigned. So, we try to figure that out. There's records that have no, institution assigned. So we're trying to figure that out. So we have our mapping and we layer that in, and then we have a view on top of that. And that's what sort of makes it into Tableau. So I wouldn't say it's manual. We're not going through like manually every record and editing the registry. It's more of like because there's so many records, we're using like mappings and associations, and then creating views on top of that, if that makes sense. And I think that was the last 2.
Yep, that's what I see as well. Okay, well, Steve, thanks so much. It's fascinating. Let me know if you can pull any strings to get me the vaccine. I know you're very heavily involved there.
Unfortunately, we have to wait our turn, but all I can say is, it's coming soon. So, for you guys up north, I think it's a little bit more complicated. Down here, I know that the counties are bigger. So in San Diego and LA, I think there's a lot more throughput is what we're noticing. And you guys saw that on the map. And that's just it's just the way that this thing has been segmented. It's been very county focused. Like I said, I'm not involved in the policies. So I don't want to comment too much about that, but that's kind of been I think that's why we're seeing some challenges.
Gotcha. We're county jumpers up here, I guess. Okay. All good. Well, hey, thanks. That's fascinating information. Really appreciate all that latest and greatest there on the vax stuff that we hear so much about. And I really want to thank everybody. Again, hopefully you guys can see this. If there's anybody you need to get a hold of, please do so. Kelly's great. If you want to work with her, anything in regards to portal, please, feel free to reach out to her directly. And Kenny and I are obviously always here for any of our accounts to help support your efforts in your Tableau journey. So let us know how we can assist. I want to thank all the presenters. Rich and Robert, you did a fantastic job. And Jared, as usual, did a great job as well. So thanks, everybody. appreciate it. We will have within, I guess, 3 months, we are going to have the spring edition. It looks like it's probably still going to be virtual, but hopefully by the one after that, maybe we'll actually be able to be somewhere in person. So thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the week, and let us know how we can further assist.
Thank you.